What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video, and today we have What If Issei Was Deceived Part 3. This series is an absolute banger so far, also a really good change of pace. I really like this one. I like how they're going about these things, and if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or the first link in the description, or the first link in the premiere, or the first link in the comments. You get the point, etc. Let's try to hit 400 to 500 likes for this video. I know you're in the premiere right now, so go ahead and hit that like button because you know your boy's here. Okay, so stop playing with me. All right, and thank you so much for the support. We hit 70,000 subscribers on Ann Popowski. I'm 30,000 subs away on there from 100K, and I'm gonna get both of these channels to 100,000. So we're gonna be in for one crazy journey, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for the support. Once again, I cannot thank you enough. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and thank my balance breakers: Aunt Lewis, Lachlan Yates. And just FYI, once again, the blue names are Juggernaut Drive members, which are just thank you so much for becoming a Juggernaut Drive members. Anyway, let's continue reading the names. Jordan Patchow, Night Ammo, Refake 135, Ryan Monk, John Bain, Keep Saying 21, Undefined Truth, VR Wolf, Dark Phoenix, Ziki 2000, Shenbion, Chaotic Raven, Noda Tracks, Doctor _MOG _ is the bomb, Grimfire Shot Gamer, Jerry Vive, Source Sponder, Rob the King, and Zero Fusion. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And Juggernaut Drive is the new membership tier. You can join if you want. It would be highly appreciated. And also, High School DxD episode 4 will be posted tonight, along with a Dragon Ball Superheroes reaction to episode 2, and a Dragon Ball Z abridged episode 1, and a Slap on Titan abridged. That's gonna be over on the Patreon. So thank you so much for the support, and let's go and thank my Patreon members: David Tanner, Ryuga, Lachlan Yates, The Black Dragon Emperor, Brendan Dossett, Striple Anchor, Mark Bacon, Sharklock, Jay Dawson, Keffer Windsor, and Godkiller. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. Seriously, I cannot thank you enough. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, before I even get into anything else, if you guys want to see a certain series from a certain show, let me know in the comment section down below. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into Part 3. Chapter 8. I've become so numb. After Issei fell asleep, he saw the image of the fox from before in his dream. He saw the nine tails become one. It walked up to him so calmly, it looked at him straight in his eyes for a few seconds, but it felt so much longer than that for him. The fox then went behind Issei. To Issei's surprise, the woman before came up and behind him. He looked in her direction. "Who are you?" Issei said. The woman smiled gently. "Find me," the woman said. "How? I don't even know who you are. Please tell me before it's too late. Please, I need you," the woman says. She says as she faded away and is replaced by the creature who only fought her. It was too close, and Issei couldn't defend himself as the creature bit Issei on the same shoulder as before. Issei woke up in shock, clutching his shoulder, cold sweat on his forehead and breathing rapidly. His eyes started everywhere, thinking of that creature was here, but after seeing nothing, he calmed down, but in a way disappointed that the woman wasn't there. He laid back down and his arm felt a familiar bump. He saw that someone was under his blanket, and suddenly he had hope that it was the woman. He slowly removed the blanket and saw long black hair. He thought it was a woman and removed the whole blanket from the joy, but found Akano in his bed and looking at him. His expression went from joy to disappointment. She was wearing her see-through Issei saw and covered her body. "Oh, it's you," Issei said. "You seem disappointed." Akano replied. "What are you doing here?" "I locked the door for a reason," Issei replied. "I couldn't help it. I wanted to check up on you to make sure that you were okay and that you got hurt by the creature yesterday," Akano said. "Thanks, but I'm fine. Azuya healed me, remember?" Issei said. "Physically, you were having a bad dream, weren't you?" Akano says. "Having bad dreams is nothing new to me," Issei replied. "Meaning?" Thoughts of her near stabbing him with light spears, seeing Azuya die in his arms. "Will you die for me? She's dead. Stone cold dead, and you're whining about protecting her?" "I played you like a cheap kazoo. Weak. You failed to save her from from me," Rainier said. Issei was just thinking about this in his head. "Nothing," Issei replied. He gets out of bed. "Where are you going? It's only 4 a.m., Akano said. "Anywhere but here. I told you guys that I need space, but here you are in my bed at 4 a.m. "You all have your own rooms, you know," Issei said. "But it's lonely without you. We miss you," Issei, Akano says. Issei just replied with a cold silence. Whose fault is that, I wonder, Drake said inside of Issei's head. Issei, your dragon power still needs to be siphoned out. I know you hate us, but at least let me do that, Akano says. Issei doesn't respond and just goes to the training zone underground. Akano sat on his bed and saw the man whom she fell for walk away without a word. Issei promoted to queen and practices extending time limit on his new form. He trained till it was 6:30 a.m. and was drenched in sweat. He was taking deep breaths and was exhausted. Your new armor can't land much longer. Before it was 5 minutes, now you can maintain it for 20 minutes. Incredible, Drake says. Thanks, Drake. I can't help but wonder how strong I would have been if I wasn't a pervert, Issei replied. Actually, you would be dead, Drake says. How so? Issei replied. It was lust that turned into love, then into power, for then which came the desire to protect them, and others as well. It was the real deal. But as you know, you managed to maintain that form from 5 to 20 minutes so quickly, it's almost too good to be even true, even for you, Drake says. I'm even surprised that I'm not going to question the good thing we got going, Issei says. Sarog will be having a tough fight ahead of him, Drake says. I promised him a good fight and I plan to deliver, Issei replied. Issei went to his bathroom and took a shower. After he got ready for school and went to the kitchen. Hunger finally got his attention. He entered the kitchen, and everyone, including his parents, were already there. His mother and his father spoke up. Well. Look who's up. You took your sweet time, Mickey says. Why are you up so late? It's only 7 a.m. and school starts at 8. I've been up since 4 a.m., Issei says. Don't talk back, young man, Mickey says, watching, no doubt. No, and why are you not spending time with our daughters-in-law? So many beautiful women here who love you, and I have yet to figure out why, Gross said. Issei said. He goes out the door angrily. His parents clearly favor the girls and don't really care about Issei that much anymore. The girls became gloomy as they watched him leave without acknowledging their presence and how his own parents tore into him. Since when did they start hating Issei so much, Azia said in her head. They looked at each other and stopped eating their breakfast. Issei left without eating anything as he trained for 2.5 hours straight, and according to Akano, Azia shed a tear and the parents saw it. Now look at what the boy did. He upset Azia, Mickey said. Forgive me. It wasn't him who upset her. It was you two, Rossweisser said. What did we do? Goro replied. Issei, you poor soul. You were right about your parents. Favoring the girls and not you. I'm so sorry you had to live such a life, Rossweisser said inside her own head. You tore into him for no reason, Rossweisser replied. He's ignoring you girls and he's a good-for-nothing pervert, Mickey replied. There's so much more to him. He's done good that I know for a fact that he's only capable of. Also, he's not a pervert anymore, as his sensei I can confirm. He hasn't cursed or been in any trouble for months now. His room is devoid of anything lewd. Even his grades have improved considerably. He's becoming more athletic student to date, Rossweisser said. Well, we don't believe that. He's always keeps his room locked. Clearly, he's still a perv, Gross said. Rossweisser just sat there in silence. Mr. and Mrs. Hyoto, please stop. Issei is hurting too much already. Let's not make it worse, Zenovia said. Well, I'm sure that whatever happened to him is karma for him being a pervert, Mickey replied. All the girls got a little mad and depressed at their words, reminded them of what Issei said on top rooftop. He also blamed himself, but now they said his parents got under his skin and gaslighted him for who he knows how long. They all got up and left the school without saying another word to them. They wanted to defend Issei right now, but his parents were acting like they did, so it was pointless. Even after becoming exhausted from training beyond his limits, he had already made it to school as he ran once he shut the door behind him. His speed increased greatly because of those weights. He had almost had an hour to spare, and he's going to need to calm down. After calming down, Drake finally spoke. Are you feeling any better? Drake says. Better? No idea. I just kind of feel numb, Issei said. He wasn't lying. His face was blank, nothing going through his mind, no emotions whatsoever. His eyes were devoid of the spark of life he usually had. Issei looked at his time and his phone, and he saw that it was nearly time for class. On his way down, he encountered Ravel. Oh, hey, Issei. Are you doing okay? Ravel said. Yeah, how are you? Issei said. There's no emotion at all. Just what did they do to you, Issei? Ravel said inside her head. Ravel? Issei said. Ravel snaps out of her thoughts. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Class will start in a few minutes. Let's get going, Issei said. Okay, Ravel replied. Are you alright? You don't look like it. Issei said. I should be asking you that. You're not acting yourself. Ravel said. I'm fine. Thanks for your concern, Issei said. The bell rings. It's rang a little early. Let's get going, Issei said. Both go to their classes, and those who saw Issei walk by them noticed that his movements were almost mechanical, and the empty look in his eyes worried them. Even Moriyama and Kadase tried to talk to him, but Issei's response was mechanical as his movements. He just went to class and took out his book. Never thought I'd say this, but I miss the pervert, Kadase says. Whatever happened to him? I don't think he deserved this, Moriyama says. Akiya saw the look in his eyes and decided to get to the bottom of this. When she and Issei hung out during lunch, she was enjoying their time together. She also saw there's more to his former perv than they thought. Aki was thinking in her head. The ORC must have really upset him that day. He said something about jumping to conclusions. I need to ask them, but I know that they won't sing like canaries. Wade Student Council President Sona is Rias' best friend. They all hung out, so maybe she can help get to the bottom of this, but is it really my place to do so? I think it is. Issei's in pain, and my friend, I can't leave him like this. An anonymous tip is a good and subtle start, Akiya says to herself. The day went on. Issei was sitting in the cafeteria eating his lunch all alone until Saji showed up. Hey, Issei, you feeling alright? And I don't want to hear a lie, Saji said. Very well, I feel numb. Issei says, I heard you left the ORC. You want to talk about it? Not really. If I told you what happened, then you'll tell Sona as you're supposed to. It'll make her dig deeper until the truth comes out, and believe me when I say that it's not worth it. So let me just say that it's between the ORC and myself. Things got the wrong kind of heated, and now we're not exactly on speaking terms, Issei said. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk to me as a friend, then let me know, Saji says. Thanks, Issei replies. Hey, want to train together for the rating game? Our team isn't complete, so we're not going to take part, but your team is. Saji said, yeah, sure, we can train. See you at your place after school then. Sanji leaves. It's not my place. Never was, and surely not my home, Issei says. He puts his headphones on and started listening to music, a song called Numb. After school, Issei and Sanji went to his place and got ready for training. Once they both changed into the combat gear, Issei suddenly felt something, a desire to get stronger and fight. His eyes had a fire in them. You ready, Sanji? Issei said. Sanji heard the determination in his tone. He looked at Issei and saw him grinning and had a fire and ready to burn. Made him smile and lit a fire in him. Hell yeah, promotion to queen, Sanji says. Issei took fighting stance. Are you going to promote? Not unless you want to get a beat down. Issei says, oh, so that's how it is, Sanji said. Yup, Issei replied. He charged him with full speed. And if it wasn't for Sanji using the queen promotion, then he wouldn't be able to dodge. So he used his absorption line to ensnare Issei, but he twisted himself out of the way. He grabbed the line and tossed Sanji over to the side. He caught himself midair and summoned Vitra to fight Issei. Issei used his balance breaker and took Vitra head on. He promoted to Knight, Rook, and Bush-Up as he saw fit and gave Sanji a tough time, but he was hanging in there. That's a neat trick, Issei, but looks like it's not strong enough, Sanji replied. You just jinxed it. Promotion, queen, Issei said. Sanji retorted in a squeaky voice after feeling Issei's power on a new level. What? Sanji said. Issei's now using his Cardinal Crimson promotion with radiating power. He used the same powerful against the creature he fought before. It hit Vitra directly and knocked him out. Sanji couldn't believe him. That punch took about one Dragon King's. You win, but why didn't you just boost your power? Sanji said. Issei deactivated his promotions, then his balance breaker. You brought out the dragon within, so I had to get serious. Boosting my power and balance breaker wasn't going to cut it. You really got strong. Likewise, so tell me, when did you get so ripped? Saji said. I used weights and a strong workout regimen without any use of my sacred gear. The stronger I am as a devil, the stronger my balance breaker and promotions are. Oh, and speaking of which, don't tell anyone about my queen form. I'm saving it for Sour-Org, Issei says. That was a given, and I believe Sour-Org would love the surprise. He might even be super proud that you trained so far to fulfill your promise to him. Got any extra weights? Sure. I can get you into tiptoe shape. Even Sona might start peeping on you. Ha, Issei said. Ooh, I like the sound of that, but she prefers guys with a brain over brawn, Sanji says. Both are equally important, and you used absorption line to not only restrict my movements, but to take a power any I had left. Both brain and brawn, since you made me use my trump card almost immediately. Now let's get training. Right, Sanji said. They started training together day and night. From that point in, Kiba and Gasper felt replaced. Sona and Paraj noticed Issei and Sanji training really hard together, but whenever Issei was alone, he would go numb again. At times, he would sit in his room and just hold his blades in his hands, admiring the cold stainless steel. The next day, his set of Solido switch blades arrived. He paid cash and added knives to his collection, but would always carry around one. Rasvaisa saw him cutting up some apples with it. The cut was so effortlessly and silent, and a truly sharp blade. She admired the blade greatly. Issei later ordered a set for her as a gift for helping him, as if part of thought of it as a compensation for putting up with him and his pervertedness since she joined. Once the package arrived, he placed it in the closet, waiting for the right time to give it to her. If he gave it to her right away, then it would make her think that she indirectly begged him to buy for them, since she's not much of a big spender. The girls really finally gave Issei some space, and little by little he was showing more emotions around people. He ignored his parents whenever they started to belittle him, but would have leave their own room when they did it in front of people. Their true feelings about their son were laid bare now that they have daughters they always wanted. Sometimes he would barricade his bedroom door shut and the windows to stop anyone from coming in. Why? So he could for once let out all the pent-up emotions bottled up deep down. He would extensively bring out Ascalon and wanted to kill those who hurt him. Every time that happened, Drake would pull his consciousness into the boosted gear and try his best to comfort him. Even became a problem as the host would tell him to use Juggernaut Drive to end those who caused him pain. Drake would sometimes be able to keep them at bay, but during one of these times, "Hey Drake, I'm sorry." Issei says, "For what?" "For you being stuck in this gear with me as a host. I'm forced to use your power again and again and again like those before me. Forgive me." "Do not blame yourself. I'm honestly happy that you and I are partners. You were the first task to use my power. You never forced me. You used the power to do good while others, including myself, have only caused chaos. If anyone deserves to have power, it's you. So don't apologize, Issei. My life became more interesting, to be honest. I never would have bothered to see how unique humans are, how they overcome obstacles, and how truly unique in a kind soul. It pains me to see souls like yourself being hurt so deeply and yet still hanging on," Drake says. "Thanks, Drake. I'm just happy to be of help. This may be one of the few times I did some good." Speaking of which, Issei said, "Drake, am I wrong for still loving them?" "I'm sorry, but that's for you to decide. I can't help no matter how much I want to. I don't understand the feeling since I've never been in love myself," Drake says. "For real?" Issei replied. "Yes, it's true, but I've seen how happy you became because of it. I feel envious," Drake says. "Envy is an ugly thing. With it comes pain," Issei says. "I can see the pain in your eyes. It's the kind that one can't recover from," Drake says. No. No, we can't. Chapter 9. It gets worse. Drake and Issei sat in silence until Drake had to sleep while Issei had to wake up. He awoke and sat on his bed. He felt his tears dripping. He silently cried. This is one of the things he hates the most. When he's alone, he breaks down and feels vulnerable, and the ones who made him stronger in the first place were the ones who did this to him. He doesn't know if he should love them or not, leave them or not. His hands were shaking almost violently. He laid back down and clutched the blanket with a very strong grip. Issei's chest was getting tight. His body was begging for him to breathe normal, but his emotional instability was too strong. Suddenly he felt a hand touch his shoulder. His instincts kicked in, and he jumped out of bed and backed himself into the corner of the room. His breathing became shallow, and he was full of fear. He looked at the hand that touched him and saw it was Irina's hand. She stood there shocked to the core as a reaction to her touch. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," Issei. Irina felt bad for scaring him, but seeing him broken like that was agony. He slowly sat down in the corner and calmed himself. "It's fine. Just don't sneak up on me like that next time," Issei says. "Right, sorry. So what do you need?" Issei says. "Not going to lie, I need your forgiveness." "We all do. I know you said you need some space, and I know I'm selfish for this, but please forgive us," Irina said. "Why do you all do this to me? You know I'm not in a good place right now, so why won't you leave me alone? You'll just be making it harder than it already is. It's been too much from the start, and it's not getting any better," Issei says. "Because we can't bear to see you like this," Irina replied. "Then just don't look," Issei says. "Issei, I'll leave. Breakfast will be ready soon." "Thanks, but I'm not hungry," Issei said. "Okay," Irina replies. She leaves. Issei locks the door behind her and barricades it with the furniture. He goes back to bed and just lays there in silence. He spent the whole day in his room. He just kept looking at his knife collection, felt the edge of each blade on his arm. Some were sharper than most. They left cuts on his hands, forearms, and fingers. Blood dripped from the cuts slowly. Issei didn't care. He only made sure the blood didn't fall on something that would be stained by. "It's getting worse," Drake said inside of his own head. He cleaned his blood-stained blades and put them back in his box. He went to the room and washed it off with blood off of him, the cuts clearly visible. He took out some bandage cloth and from his bathroom cabinet and wrapped his cuts in them. He wept as he sewed because it was becoming their habit not to leave him alone. He put on a long-sleeved shirt, jeans, then removed the furniture from the doorway. He unlocked the door and left his room. On his way out, his parents ran into him. "And where have you been all day?" Mickey said. "It's been around sundown. You're going out. We saw you to come down for breakfast alone. We still don't know what they see in you," Goro says. They started barreling him with questions and comments. Issei was getting angry. He looked at them and his eyes flashed green. They both need to shut up, and then they saw the rage in him. His once kind brown eyes were now dragon-like and glowing green. They heard a deep growl coming from him. "Enough!" Issei said. He said only one word, and they had to see a silhouette of a red dragon with green eyes right behind him. It lasted only for a second, but it was enough. Issei then collapsed on one knee and clutched his chest. It was starting to hurt. His mother tried to help him up, but Issei refused her help. He managed to stand up. "Stay away," Issei says. He gave up a warning and went back to his room. He closed the door and collapsed on the ground. He was trying to calm himself as he heard the voices in the past telling him to use the Juggernaut Drive to kill them all, and he didn't want that. "Kill them all. They hurt you, used you. First Rainier, now them. They did this." "No," Issei said inside of his own head. He was trying so hard to black out the voices. Of the sheer luck, he saw the mask under his bed. The image of the woman calmed him down a bit. He felt the urge to put it on as the voices faded. I need to see her, but why?" Issei says. He grabbed the mask and put it on. The texture of the mask on his face felt gentle. He opened his eyes and saw something, her face. He saw her cut up and bleeding. It hurt him to see her, and it made him angry along with regretful. Then he saw another. This one made a hole full once more, made him feel happy. Everything about her was perfect. He saw another image. Once again, he was angry at the sight of her being injured. He could feel the arrows he saw piercing her. What are these? Her memories? Why do I feel connected to her? Who is she? Issei says. He saw the face of a creature she was before. He felt the stinging in his shoulder once again. His chest was hurting, more than before. The pain was spreading, then he felt it. The mask was latching onto him. It was beginning to grow on his body and his left arm. Drake woke up and off his partner's distress and immediately fared a draconic order and sent it coursing through Issei's body to counter the effects of the mask that was having on him. He called out to Issei, but he couldn't hear him. Issei was seeing the images of the woman, visions of him fighting the creature, the flashbacks of Rias and the others hurting him the way they did. How his own parents showed their true colors once they had their daughters. They always wanted and not a son. A black spot began to appear on his chest. From it, black and white cracks began to spread through his body, but mainly his left arm. Issei let out a screech that everyone throughout the house and even in the training area could hear. They all rushed to find the source of the hellish scream. The first to find it were Issei's parents, unfortunately. They saw Issei as he was turning into what they could only describe as a monster. The others immediately saw Issei's parents outside looking into her room in horror. They all rushed and saw this. "Is that Issei?" Mickey said. "You two need to leave now," Rosweisa says. "Issei," Rias says. "What's happening to you?" Akano replied. He screamed once more and watched him turn into this thing. "Everyone, please help him," Drake says. Konako tackled Issei, but he didn't move a single inch from his place. She felt as if she had no strength. They locked eyes, and Konako felt only fear. He grabbed her and threw her towards the others using only one arm. They caught her. Issei wanted to hurt them. He looked at them with malice and slowly started to move towards them. He looked at them picking a target, and his gaze fell upon Azia and he stopped moving. He saw the fear in her eyes. His body jerked. He grabbed the mask and started to pull it off. It was hurting him. He let out a small painful howl, but he managed to pull it off. The parts of the mask that grew on him broke into pieces like porcelain, then disappeared. Issei collapsed on his knees, breathing heavily. The others tried to come close to him, but his parents were too afraid to come near him. They were petrified from the fear, but the others weren't. "Get away!" Issei says. He yelled, and they looked at him and saw that his eyes were now yellow, and his skeletal was partially black. He had fangs, and now his fingernails were almost claw-like. Then they saw the fresh cuts on his left arm as the sleeve was ripped, and some of the cuts were bleeding. The black and white lines were even more concerning. They just looked at him in horror. But that was the least of his concerns. He started coughing, and it was a little difficult to breathe. As soon as he could breathe again, he looked towards Rosweisa. "Rosweisa-sensei, call Azazel," Issei said. "Right." She then leaves to call him, and just looks at the mask and stands up. Images of the woman fresh in his mind along with that thing. "Issei, are you alright?" Ozzy said. He deadpanned. He ignored everyone, including his parents, and just started changing his clothes in the bathroom. He saw the lines on his body and the black spot on his chest. It was slowly beginning to fade away. He put his clothes on and exited the room. Because he didn't let go of the mask, he grabbed one of the stiletto blades and put it in his pocket. As he did so, Azazel was there waiting for him with his wings out. He didn't care if his parents saw him. He was worried more about Issei than anything else. "Hey, Sensei. Not going to hide your wings? By the looks of your parents' face, I could tell they saw something that they shouldn't, so what's the difference does it make?" Azazel says. "Good point. Anyway, there's a problem," Issei says. "I know. Come here with me to the Gagar and bring that mask." "Gladly." They exit the room, but in front of them stood the parents, no longer petrified from fear. "We want answers," Goro said. "Issei, you are Issei, right?" "You tell me." "Was I ever?" Issei replied. Issei and Azazel went past them, and then the teleportation circle. They disappeared, leaving everyone to wonder as what just happened. His parents looked at everyone. "Answers, please. What happened to our Issei?" Goro said. Rias was to erase their memories, but Rasvaisa stopped her. "Enough lies, Rias. They need to know everything. You two need to sit down." And they began to talk. Issei and Azazel went to the Gagar. Rasvaisa said that mask looked like it was taking over. "Where'd you find that?" Azazel says. "I'll tell you, but don't look for her or hurt her, okay?" Issei says. "Her?" Azazel replied. And that is the end of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. Answers. Back at Issei's house, his parents were told the truth about everything. Everyone there is devil except for Irina, since she's an angel. They show their wings and do a little magic to ultimately prove that they are telling the truth. They told his parents about Issei being a new former pawn, the fallen sacred gears, how they used magic on them to make them forget everything. They started seeing clues to them not being human. This was an easy part, but only having to explain why Issei was attacked, killed, reincarnated, having to fight the Fallen, Riser, Kokaville using the Juggernaut drive after he thought that Ozzy was once gone, Loki, Volley, the hero faction, saving Yakuza, but none of that broke him as much as this. An interrupted confession because of them leading to all of this. Issei apparently cutting himself and drinking. Getting rid of all the porn and buying knives, they saw the blood-soaked tissues in the trash bin. His many bottles of assorted alcoholic drinks. Issei's parents couldn't believe it. So much to take in, his mother started crying while his father took those alcoholic drinks and drank them all. "Now I see why you girls love him. He's not just some perv, but a real man. He went through all that in just a few months and he barely had a choice in any of it," Goro said. His mother was sobbing the whole time and they couldn't utter a single word. "Just a while back, he and Azazel and I were on the rooftop. He said something that broke our hearts," Rasvaisa said. "And what did he say?" "The reason he wanted many loving parents was because he wanted some real love, and to give you all the daughters you always wanted. His pervertedness was just a disguise, which was rooted too deeply so that he couldn't tell the difference between them," Rasvaisa said. Miki started crying again. "And this whole time we were disappointed in him for being a boy, when instead God gave us such a kind, caring, and strong boy who saved everyone several times over." Goro said. "His heart is truly a rare gem. It may look like another. Once you look past it, it's priceless. It'll bring you joy just by knowing that it exists, and you're one of those who saw it in your own eyes," Rasvaisa said. "He made our Parage become a family," Kiba replied. Rias immediately bowed down in front of the parents, her hands, knees, and head on the ground. "Please forgive me for what I did to Issei," Rias says. "It's him you need to ask forgiveness." "And so do we," Goro said. Rias broke down as the others did. They sat on the floor. Rasvaisa sat on the bed and looked at Issei's collection. She saw some of the tiny specks and streaks of blood that Issei missed. "Was he trying to kill himself?" Rasvaisa said. She shed a tear as he wiped the blood off the blades. It stained her soft white hands. Issei's mother saw her hands, and she cried even harder as she thought the same thing Rasvaisa did. The rest of the same. The image of Issei taking his own life was just too much. At the Gagar, Issei and Azazel entered his parents' personal quarters. It was a total man cave, all kinds of gaming consoles, good quality furniture, and a fully stocked bar and ping pong table. "Nice place," Issei said. "Thanks. Come to have a drink with me," Azazel said. "I could use a strong one," Issei replied. "I know." He pours them both some drinks and hands Issei a glass. "Drink this one slowly," Azazel said. "Thanks," Issei replied. They started drinking in silence. Azazel noticed that Issei looks a little pale and his hair grew out. "Issei, when did you last eat?" Azazel said. "Last night, I think." "You didn't eat anything the whole day?" Azazel replied. "No. The usual lack of space for my former team and bullshit from my parents took away my appetite. I stayed in my room the whole day," Issei says. He took another sip from his drink. So explain the mask. Who did you ask me not to hurt, Azazel said. The while back we were asked to take out a stray in the familiar forest. Others who were sent didn't return. I decided to go to see how strong I got. We split up and I was in my balance breaker getting a bird's eye view. Then it thing attacked. Thing? Not a stray, Azazel said. No way a creature powerful as that is a stray devil, Issei says. He shows Azazel the mask. Its arms were too long, blades that when cut through my armor, its speed surpassed my own. The power it had was equal to ultimate class easily. Its entire body was made of the same material as this mask. It had 2 horns on the head. Issei said, didn't you use the promotions? The promotions can't keep up. Rook is strong but slow. Knight is fast but lacks defense. Bishop is long range but attack a promotion. I have an archer myself to the ground and makes look like a sitting duck, Issei says. Then how did you beat it? Dumb look. As I was about to attack it, it disappeared from sight and it reappeared behind me. But as it did, I felt an air vibrate around us. I couldn't bear it, hear it, and then bit my shoulder. I elbowed it and it was disoriented and cracks appeared on its mask. I took the chance to use my new queen promotion. Issei said, queen promotion? It's a combination of the other 3 without their weaknesses except that my body isn't used to the power yet. I used it on the creature and gained an upper hand. I blasted it a few kilometers away, reached it for a minute before the others, and as I was about to use my dragon shot to kill it, the mask off it broke and so did the rest of it, Issei said. So it died? No, I saw a woman, Issei replied. Azazel saw his expression change from having flashbacks to a smile, a slight blush, and his voice had a slightly higher tone. She is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Rias, Akano, or Lady Yakuza can't come close. She makes Aphrodite look like a cross between Matsuda and Imp, Issei says. Azazel choked on his drink. He started coughing a bit and nearly fell out of his chair as he could... A woman more beautiful than all of them, Azazel says? Yeah, I didn't think it was possible, but I know what I saw, Issei replied. Now I really need to see it for myself. You just might. So what happened next, Azazel said. Well, she was nude and she's a kitsune unlike any I've ever seen. Azazel had a nosebleed. She was in the nude? Did you take a picture, Azazel said? Issei backed up from a bit from the reaction. I was too caught up in the moment, Issei replied. Azazel said. Anyway, my armor gave out and she looked at me right into the eyes of my soul more accurately. I could look into hers and we felt a connection. I never felt anything like I did when I did. I felt happier than ever. I completely forgot about everything I went through. It was just her and I. The world around us disappeared, but, Issei said, but? I was forced out of that blissful moment when I sensed the others approach. She and I became aware of our surroundings. She covered herself in her tails, and I couldn't leave her like that. I gave her my jacket and I told her to run, Issei says. What did she say or do? Azazel said. She called me her other half and didn't want to leave. I told her to run, or the others will kill her. On orders, Issei said. And then, Azazel replied, she gave me a kiss on my cheek, healed my injuries, shoulder halfway the transform into a white fox with giant tails. I used the dragon shot to destroy the tree husk nearby so the others think that I killed the creature. If they saw her then, they would kill her and the thought of that pisses me off, Issei said. But how did you end up with claws, fangs, yellow eyes, and the skeleton turning partially black, Azazel said. Well, when I went back to my room, I was just looking through my collection when I saw this match, which I kept. I had a sudden urge to put it on, as if it was almost begging me to, Issei says. Azazel replied. Then I started seeing things. Azazel raised an eyebrow. I saw her. She was hurt, Issei said. His expression changed to that of anger, sorrow, and regret. He looked like he was in physical pain. I saw her with arrow piercing her. I could even feel the arrows. It was like I was seeing experience what she did. Maybe those are her memories. I'm not sure. Then I got sucked into it. I saw more and more of her and my chest started to hurt a lot more. Pain spread to my left arm, Issei said. Issei rolled up his sleeve, and it shows that Azazel in the black and white cracks like lines. What the? Azazel says. The mask stuck itself to my face and started to grow on my body. I managed to take it off though, Issei said. Was it trying to possess you? But it needs a conscience for that, and I don't feel anything from the mask, Azazel says. Nor do I. So why did it do that? Issei said. Let's find out, Azazel replied. He takes the mask and puts it on. Before Issei could stop him, and nothing happened. Nope, nothing, Azazel said. Why would you risk that? It took everything I had to take the mask off while the others were powerless to do anything. 'Cause I know you can stop me, kiddo, Azazel said. Issei sat there in silence. Put it on. I need to see what happens. Alright, Issei replied. He then grabs the mask, puts it on. Issei starts seeing the images of the woman again. The mask started to grow once more, but Issei was ready this time. Issei removed the mask quickly, and it wasn't hard as before. It latched onto you. Describe it. Azazel says it felt like a solid turning into a liquid. A living liquid. I felt it grow, and I saw the woman again. I saw two sides of her, Issei said. Meaning? Azazel replied. I saw her with full moon behind her. She's perfect. I'm getting jealous, kiddo. Just tell me about the next one. In the other, she's a fighter, a warrior. I think the location in that image, it's not like anything I've seen on Earth. I could smell the blood when I saw it. I could feel the magic, Issei said. This is interesting, but there isn't any place for magic in the air. We possess it, Azazel says. Are you saying that she is not from our world or even possibly our universe, Issei says? There are different dimensions, so it's possible. Well, come on, let's get some dinner, Azazel said. Yeah, I feel hungry. He replied. The two ate dinner together. Azazel still couldn't believe that Issei gave up or was freaking out in the inside when he saw Issei change so much but still hanging on. Issei, Azazel says, yes? Forgive me for asking this, but wasn't there a bit of an overreaction from both sides during the day? Azazel said, not sure, but I used my spell. You know, the one I used to counter an enemy woman's attacks. And what did you find out? Azazel said, that they all meant it, especially Rias. Being told that she would rather go back to her former misogynistic fiance who I gave up my arm for to defeat Cut really hit fucking deep. I can sure pick him, Issei says. And about Rainier, I'm sorry, Azazel said. It wasn't your fault. She followed Cocaville who went rogue. She's dead, and he's in ice, Issei says. So about this new woman, you want to know about her bust size? Yup. I was too lost in her eyes and her voice. Didn't notice her bust size, Issei says. Azazel and Drake, what the fuck? Really? Issei said. I'm disappointed. Azazel says. I'm not. I'm proud. No tits to power up. I'm done being shocked, Drake says. Tits are the best, Drake. Azazel replies. Then you can become the grabbing dragon. People would notice the difference, Azazel said. That insert sex would beat you if you tried anything with Rias, Issei said. Yeah, nope. Bros before hoes. And oh, are you okay with your parents knowing that about the supernatural? And you? Azazel says, honestly, I don't even care anymore. Right now, I just want to give Sour Org the fight I promised and find out who the Fox Woman is, Issei says. And what makes her so strong, Azazel replied. Yeah, Issei said. Issei started to feel dizzy. Are you okay? Everything is spinning, Issei said. Issei tried to get up, but he fell on the ground and then passed out. Hey, Issei, Azazel says. And that is the end of Chapter 10. Chapter 11, My Other Half. The fox woman Issei encountered was running away and climbed a tree in a familiar forest. She was still in her fox form and looked at the mushroom cloud that was created by Issei. She looked on in awe and changed into her semi-human form. She was still wearing Issei's jacket. She loved it as his scent was on it and was truly decent. Every man would love to see her in nude, but Issei saved her from the embarrassment of death. She watches from a distance and sees the others with him. Who are they, and why does my other half seem so distant from them? The woman says. She didn't like seeing them with him. I can feel your anger towards them except for one. Is she your mate? No, you don't have to be. We have with her, the woman said. She watches everyone talk about something missing. Then they teleported away just after she saw Issei take the mask. No, not that, the woman said. She was getting worried and dropped to her knees. She felt something move around the jacket. She took it out and saw a switchblade. What's this? The woman said. She started to examine it and accidentally flicked the blade. A small blade? It belongs to him. He has good taste. Just what I expected of my mate, the woman says. She puts the knife in her pocket. I wish I got to know your name at least. I'd be one step closer to knowing the truth, the woman said. She transformed back into a fox and was on her way to find him. She could feel his presence to an extent even though he teleported away. The woman managed to create some clothing using magic and fixed his jacket too. No bite marks and blood on it. She felt guilty for hurting him. It was a thin jacket that was meant for style in the summer. One day she was wondering and she felt someone's hands on her face. What the? Who's touching me? The woman said. There was no one around her and no present except for one. Wait. These are his hands. They are so gentle. I can sense his presence, the woman said. She was feeling Issei's hands and touching her cheeks. In her lips. Issei was in his room at the time with the door locked and touching the mask. What are you doing? Wait, stop, the woman said. She could feel Issei turn the mask and put it on. As Issei started seeing images in her memory, she started seeing images of him in his memories too. She saw him as get his heart ripped to pieces by the group from before, saw the fight Fallen, Devils, Loki, and the others. She felt his pain too. The pain from light spears, all the fights, but none could come close to his heartache. She was screaming as she saw Issei turn into the creature she was before. A mask started to manifest on his face as well until it suddenly fell off. She couldn't see Issei anymore, but his presence changed. "What just happened to you?" the woman said. She saw that there was something else, something to him besides the mask trying to take over. She sat there and contemplating what really was happening to him, because his presence to become very different. She felt apathy within Issei. After an hour or two or so, she felt him put on the mask once more. She saw more memories of his and finally heard his name just before she lost the connection. "Issei, that's the name of my soulmate. I hope you can find me. I don't know where I am. I'm scared," the woman said. And that is the end of chapter 11. And that is where we're going to stop for now. Get cliffhangered and suck it. I don't care. You're going to have to deal with it. And before everybody leaves, please hit the like button. Become a channel member so you know when I upload. Become a Patreon member so you can see me react to all these things if you want to, of course, if you even care at this point. But once again, I hit 70,000 subs on Popowski, and that was absolutely amazing. I get to eat a pizza. I know it sounds sad, but I don't know if you guys know, but I eat super duper fucking healthy and work out all the time. So I literally eating a pizza is like luxury to me. So I'll take it. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a lit pizza. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot thank you enough. I have to go back to school in literally 5 days now. Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to enjoy this year. Just focus on the tube. Hopefully, so everything causes me less pain. So thank you so much, man. I really can't thank you enough. You know, your boy's been training, uploading, grinding, as you can tell. I've been on my, I don't know, I just couldn't help but just keep posting. It's like my new norm now. I had to make it that one day I woke up and I decided that I was going to be him. I don't even know how to explain it. If you haven't listened to anybody yet, the one person who completely helped me out of my depression was David Goggins. You need to listen to him and his words. Take them to heart. They work. Practice it for a month straight, and you will be absolutely insane. My mindset is completely different. I had discipline from beforehand, but my discipline is now an obsession of wanting to just be the absolute best. I know this cringe motivational stuff. I'm not trying to give you motivation. I'm trying to get you discipline. So listen to David Goggins. Okay, I really do appreciate that man. He practically saved my life. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try to hit 300 and 400 likes. Go subscribe to my other channels. Without any further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD out.